This is Charlie Simmons. Today is the 10th of November 2011. I am interviewing Mr. Stanley Holzhauer. We are in the Inland Barrens Creek in Fredericksburg, Texas. This interview is in support of the Center of Pacific War Studies Archives for the National Museum of the Pacific War, Texas Historical Commission, for the preservation of historical information related to this site. First, Stan, I want to thank you for spending some time with us today. And I would like for you to tell us, if you will, your personal story, starting from where you were born, when you were born, and a little bit about your family life.
Okay. Well, I was born August the 28th, 1925 in Breeze, Illinois, Clinton County. It was a southern part of the state, which is diversified agriculture. Our farm, we were farmers, or my dad was a farmer, and he had about 120 acres. And in those days yet, without a tractor and so forth, we farmed with horses, and we had cows to sell milk, and we had chickens and pork, and raised all kinds of things. We were very diversified in the crops: wheat, corn, and soybeans. That were the products that we raised on the farm. We lived 4.5 miles from the town. Our schools were that far away, and went to an elementary school in Breeze, Illinois, and graduated from Breeze High School in 1943. So that's my early background. I worked on the farm. I did very little other than that. I did drive a truck a summer or two for a straw baling company, but other than that, the life was just living on the farm.
Okay. And you graduated high school in 1943.
Right.
Now, where were you in December 1941 when the Japanese attacked?
I was home on the farm, and we had no telephone and we had no radio. And my uncle was the sheriff of Clinton County. And he came out Sunday afternoon, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and informed us that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. Mm-hmm. And that's how I remember that date to the best of my ability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, was there an immediate rush to the recruiting office by the men in your town or around you, or do you recall?
Well, as much as I recall, there was a draft. The people were already in the draft.
Okay.
And many of them were graduates, if you want to call them graduates, of the CCC camps, if you remember what those were. They got in the Army rather quickly. I was only 16 or just about 16 years old at that time, so I didn't ever feel that I would be eligible to go to the war at all. Okay. But it was something new, something different, and so we had to watch it develop.
Okay, what about after the war began? I know there were restrictions on use of a lot of materials like gasoline, and food became scarce.
Yeah, there was a lot of restrictions. We had an A card, which gave us just a couple of gallons of gas a week, or whatever the A card was worth. We were allowed to have a C card, which gave us a few more gallons of gasoline, because we also delivered milk in the town. So we got a little extra gasoline for that. But tires were rationed, sugar was rationed, meat was rationed, but it did not affect us because we lived on a farm. Sure. We had all the chicken, pork we ever wanted to eat. Yeah. But so it was a great time for sharing too, because we could share food to people that didn't have it for work that we would get. It was kind of a little bit of a barter situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now you graduated in 1943, you said, and then what was your plan at the time you graduated?
Well, my plan was I was not 18 yet, August the 20th, in June of 1943. So I worked for a straw baling company and also worked on the farm, doing the crops as much as I could, and helped my dad as much as I could. But as soon as we were turned 18 in those days, you were just given about 2 months and you would be drafted.
Okay. And did you sign up to beat the draft, or did you just wait till you were called?
Well, I didn't want to be in the Army, so I guess I was called. I was notified that I would be drafted very soon, and I said I would join the Navy. And when my draft came through, that's what they gave me. I could choose.
Okay, so you chose the Navy.
I chose the Navy.
Okay, and
I couldn't swim I couldn't swim a lick.
So where did you go to basic training, and how did you get there?
I went from Southern Illinois. We went to Chicago, and I thought I'd take my basic training at Great Lakes Training Company.
Sure.
But that didn't happen. They tripped us to Farragut, Idaho, at a training camp up there, and that's where I took my basic boot camp, Farragut, Idaho.
Farragut, Idaho.
Yeah, Farragut was named after a famous admiral, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I've never heard of that one. I didn't realize there was a boot camp in Idaho for the Navy.
There's one of the most beautiful lakes in the world there, Lake Pend Oreille.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay, so, and how long did boot camp last?
Well, I think that lasted, I can't recall exactly, I think it was 12 or 14 weeks, something like that. It wasn't like, I understood some of them were longer that earlier, but I think it was 12 weeks.
Okay, and then did you receive any special training after boot camp? Or?
Well, we were all tested, of course, for various skills and so forth, and I was assigned to the signal school, visual signal school. That means semaphore, light, and flags.
Okay.
And I went to school there then at Farragut, Idaho for a period of, I'm going to say 4 months, or maybe about 4 or 5 months. And we graduated from there. And then, when we were through with school, they assigned us, I don't know how we got assigned, but I didn't pick this, but all of a sudden I was in a beach party group, and after graduation. But
because you were assigned directly to a beach party then?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then after then we were assigned to a ship, the USS Hansford, in San Francisco. But before that, we had to take the beach party training, and that was at Oceanside, California.
Okay, you went to Oceanside. That's close to Camp Pendleton.
Well, that's where we trained with the Marine Corps.
I see. Okay.
Because we were now going to be an integral part of any invasion with the Marines that we would carry aboard our ship.
And what did your training consist of then?
All kinds of assault combat, and we learned how to shoot and what part we would play in an invasion as far as communications were concerned, and that we would be a ship-to-shore to frontline group as far as communications were concerned. And we would try to get the stuff in that they needed. We had to get it from the ships to the shore, to the front lines.
Okay.
That was the idea of the whole thing.
Okay, so you managed the routing of the supplies from shipboard to the unit that they needed to get to within the Marine Corps structure.
Right.
Okay.
And we landed with them in the assault waves.
Sounded like a very complicated task.
Yeah, and we were only supposed to be very short-termed there, like 2 or 3 days, until they could bring the front lines would be moved on by then. But on Ewell, you couldn't move.
You hoped to.
Right, we didn't make it.
Yeah.
They didn't make it, so we stayed there 5 days, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we got relieved. But don't forget, I want to mention there was more to it than just communications. There was a hospital corpsman in the beach party.
Okay.
There were only 45 or 50 of us per party.
So when you went to the beach party training, you trained with a specific group of men, and you went to Oceanside, for example, as a group, and trained together as a group, and shipped out on the ship as a group. So
with the Marine Corps that we would land with, yes.
Okay.
And they were on our ship.
Okay.
So our ship held about a little over 1,200 assault troops, maybe 1,400 assault troops.
But
we had the landing craft and everything. And however, the forward element, which I was a part of, which landed in the 6th wave, did not land from our ship. We landed out of a tank where the first group of Marines went in. We were with that group. And so I landed out of a tank as well. 2 other people here today are in that same group that landed out of the tanks, out of an LST.
Okay.
LST is a landing ship's tanks.
Okay.
And we were, when we prepared for the invasion of Iwo Jima, that was at Hilo, Hawaii, and we trained hard there in hand-to-hand combat, jiu-jitsu, and all that kind of stuff, so that if we could take care of ourselves. We had guns and gas masks and then our other equipment. The idea was that we would get the beach set up so that the forward element could proceed, the Marines could proceed, and we could get the stuff to them that they need, and we could get the wounded off and the dead taken care of. And also there was a group in the beach party that was in charge of cleaning up the beach wherever there was ships, boats that were broached and stuff. We had to get those off there so other people could come in, so other boats could come in.
What sort of equipment would you have had besides communications equipment? I mean, did you have like any bulldozers or any kind of heavy moving equipment, or?
Well, not in.
Well, I guess you couldn't with it.
No,
assault.
not that. They came later.
Okay. Yes.
They came later. The thing that we needed the most, and we had to find on the ships, was the ash on Iwo Jima was so loose and so forth that the tanks couldn't move.
Right.
So we had to find this
Morrison, Manny?
rolls of like metal things, so they wouldn't sink in the sand.
Yeah.
So that you could like make a road or a path with them.
Okay.
And the tanks could use them then to proceed forward on those. They couldn't get up the bank.
Oh.
Yeah. No. So it was a tough go for the Marines there, and then they were shooting at us from both sides. You know, they're high on both ends.
As a personal aside, how did you feel when you got assigned to the beach party and you found out that you joined the Navy to avoid being in the Army, and here you are back leading the Army? Were you a little disappointed in your choice of
no, I guess not at that point. I guess not. You didn't think about that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, here's where I was. Here's my job. I had to do it.
Okay,
I
sure.
wanted to do it, and we needed to do it. And so we just became an integral part. And the Marines were always a little bit higher in my estimation and my feeling than being in the Army. I don't know why, but I think that's not too uncommon in those days. But Marines were really the go-getters.
Well, yeah.
And it's still kind of that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although the Army did a wonderful job in Europe.
Well, they did, and they have their way of fighting, and the Marines have their way of fighting.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, you know, you need the people that can do the assault troops, like the Marines can.
Right.
So, yeah, certainly, and the Army was underrated in a lot of ways.
Right. But they still were very important and very
sure.
They were a good fighting group.
But being an ex-Marine, or I'm not an ex-Marine, I'm an old Marine. I sympathize with your characterization.
Okay.
Okay. So you going over on the ship, you've got your troops and you're on board the ship. You're ready to go in. When do you find out where you're going and what you're going to do?
Well, we didn't know where we were going until after we got seaboard, as far as I was concerned. Then we found out that once we were out to sea, then we were told where we were headed for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we had done all kinds of practice landings in Hawaii on similar types of everything except the terrain. The terrain wasn't the same in Hawaii as it was on Iwo Jima, but we landed on Maui. We took Maui, I don't know how many times with the Marine Corps practice land. Very important because it gave us organization and everything, and we all knew what we had to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you downloaded then from your APA,
right, to an LST.
To an LST, and then on the LST you loaded up into LVTs?
A tank.
The tanks?
Yeah, yeah, a tank.
Okay, yeah. So then you took the tanks in, and
on the way in, my tank, and Ben Cranefield is here today, he was in the same tank I was. A bullet, the tank has, and as you well know, has 2 shields and 2 guns, one on each side of the center. Like 40 millimeter guns, or maybe 20, I don't know what they were, kind of. Anyhow, they have a shield up there, and the shield is metal, and the shell went right through one of those shields while we were in that boat coming in, and exploded in the water behind us. So we were very, very fortunate. Now Ben Cranfield, who's here, he's a medic, and a couple of Marines got shrapnel wounds. So as I remember it, he administered first aid before he ever got to the beach.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. But that shell was so lucky it exploded behind us instead of inside the shell, inside the boat, inside the tank.
Inside the tank?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so how many troops were on the beach when you actually hit the beach?
How many troops were on the beach?
Well, you said you were in one of the earlier waves, or?
Well, yeah, there were 12 of us, signalmen and radiomen and medics, that went in ahead of our regular beach party, which came in maybe 12, 15 waves later.
Okay.
But we were in the 5th or 6th wave when we went in, and those were the assault Marines. We landed with the 27th Division of the 5th Marines.
Okay. 27th?
Yeah, 27th Division of the 5th Marines.
Okay.
And the 5th Marines was a newly constituted Marine Corps group. I mean, there was a 3rd, and I don't know if there was a 2nd or not, but I know there was a 3rd and a 4th, and then they made the 5th Marine Division.
Okay.
So they were not really combat tested, except for their officers and a few trainers.
Yeah, that was not unusual, I guess, in later stages of war.
Yeah.
Okay, so your small group, or your 12 men or so, this is mostly communications,
Right,
then.
right.
So,
And medics.
And medics.
Right.
And so
One other person, I'm sorry, one
ahead.
other person is here today, Dick Hall, H-A-W.
Mm-hmm.
He was a medic, and of course he got hit, and but he's in a wheelchair because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff told us a little bit about his dad.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
okay. Okay, so well, let's back up a little bit. How did you? Okay, you were integrated with the Marine groups that were going in early. You got selected. You and your 10 or 12 companions got selected to be the advanced beach party in.
Right.
And how did you get picked out of the whole beach party to be in that select advanced group?
Well, I don't know who made the decisions, but somebody way up on top, maybe Admiral Nimitz, I don't know.
But you just picked the tallest guys? Or
No. We each had a beach commander in charge of our group. We had a beach master.
Okay.
And he was a lieutenant commander. And I don't know if he was the one who selected us to go or not, but I'm sure it was part of the whole operation that there would be this advanced group going.
Okay.
Now, how he picked me, I don't know, but maybe, I don't know.
Okay, so you loaded up in your LST. How did you get over to the LST from the APA?
We went down the net from our ship.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. If I remember correctly, we left Hawaii on the LST.
Oh, okay. So you went into all the way to Iwo on an LST.
I think so, yes.
Oh, okay. That must have been a lot of fun too. I hear those guys are really a lot of fun to ride.
Oh yeah.
Heavy weather.
Man, you got tanks and Marines, and they don't accommodate many troops.
Yeah.
But here we had all these tanks and everything in there.
Oh, okay. So, so then when you got in, when you started getting close to the beach, you remember you had this shell that went right through your tank, exited out the back without exploding. And what other sorts of things were happening? You have other shells hitting in the water around you?
Well, not too much, because the first couple waves that went in, the Japanese didn't shoot very much.
Yeah.
But I want to back up just a little bit. When we were given the orders we were behind the smoke screen, and we were back there organizing into waves. And of course, all of a sudden, we had the signal to go, and when you went through that smoke screen and you looked back, there was nothing back there. It kind of gave you a scary feeling. Here, this is real. And then the shell went through the thing, and it's more real. So, and then the dead
Yeah.
started appearing on the beach, and that's really real. It's war then. Yeah, quite a change. Yeah, but being behind that smoke screen, you felt pretty safe.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But there was a lot of bombing going on by the Air Corps, and big guns from the battle wagons were shooting, and so there was a lot of noise and stuff going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, so how long did it take you once you went through the smoke screen to actually get to the beach?
oh, not very long at all, just
Okay.
like a couple of minutes.
Okay, so they really had the smoke screen in close.
Pretty close.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, we went in pretty fast, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, I don't know.
Yeah,
Something like
okay.
that. But I can't really say that's truth, but that's what I could reach.
Sure. Well, yeah, as
Yeah.
best your memory can.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some of those guys that were out on those, forming up into waves for sometimes a couple of hours at a time.
Yeah.
And they could see the shore for that long.
Yeah,
Some of them.
yeah.
So, okay, so once you hit, you go grinding up onto the beach.
Right, and it can't get up, so they open the door and we all go out the back into the water.
Okay.
We all ended up in the water, and then we had, our gas mask and our gun, our 30-06, and we had a generator and a signal lamp, and a pair of flags. That was my equipment. Of course, the other guys had medical equipment, and the radio men had their radio, TVYs or TVXs, whatever they were called.
Mm-hmm.
But we all had additional gear besides fighting gear, so
Yeah.
it was part of what we needed to do.
Now, could you do semaphore back to the ships, or
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
So they were close enough in they could see
No,
you.
no, we didn't know semaphore on Eagle at the very beginning because you couldn't dare stand up.
Yeah. Okay.
You'd get shot. We used light, signal light.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and what was your first job then?
I think our first job as a signalman was to get in the, I wish I could think of the name of that stuff they put down.
Marsden matting?
Yeah, a matting. Yeah, it's a matting.
Yeah, Marsden matting is the metal stuff
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
holes
that's
in
it.
it.
That's it.
That they put down for landing strips.
Right.
On sandy places.
Yeah, I guess it's what
okay.
it was. So that was our first thing, find out where it is and get it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you had ship manifests, so you knew where there was, or the Beachmaster, somebody knew where there was.
Beachmaster knew a lot.
Where there was a supply
Right.
of Marsden matting on one of the ships, and he says,
All the Beachmaster does is call APA 106 if they got the stuff, send it in.
yeah, okay.
So that was our job, to signal that way. We had no knowledge of where anything was, but he knew where everything was.
Okay, and were things starting to get pretty warm as far as Japanese fire by this time? Or?
When about the 12th wave, somewhere in there, boy, it got tough. Then the shooting started. And then after the shooting started, of course, there were wounded people. The dead were being brought over and we're looking for them. Then the day moved on, and the Marines were still laying there where we started, and they weren't moving. And then it started to rain and got cold that night, and it was terrible to be out there. But they illuminated, as you know, the island.
Mm-hmm.
They put these parachute
Flares.
Mm-hmm. You could see everything at night. And the worst thing about that is, as they descended, it would form shadows. It looked like people were crawling, So
Yeah.
we were told not to get out of our foxholes. But if anyone's coming toward you, it must be a Jap.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think that was common knowledge through all the Marines, and at least on the first part of the fighting. Yeah.
Okay. And in the meantime, you were evacuating wounded.
And yeah.
And
Not the dead, though.
Not the dead.
No,
but
they were
just the wounded. Were
just the wounded.
had priorities.
Yeah.
Okay, and so throughout the night, I'm sure you still have a job to do at night, right? You're still making communications with the ships, or
we had very
everything
little,
kind of pretty much shut down.
pretty much shut down, at least
Okay.
as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
I think most everybody was shut down. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
At least the first part of that invasion.
okay,
I can't talk to you about what happened after that, but I do know this, the flamethrowers became a very, very important part of the battle. and they're the ones that cleaned out the cage and made it possible for the Marines to take over. Otherwise, they'd have never done it. I don't think so.
So,
Yeah.
so you're into the second day. Have you had anything to eat yet? You carrying K rations with you? Or
K
what?
rations. But I don't know if this should be part of a record or not, but it's rather interesting. I had a friend who was also with me, not in the original 12, but he was a good signalman, and he was the messenger between the beachmaster and us. And when he'd see a dead officer, he'd take their C rations and bring them over to us.
Huh? The officers had C rations?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, we had K rations.
That's the way it always is.
Yeah, but, you know, nobody else was going to eat them.
Yeah, well, sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
But Willie was so good to do that, so thoughtful to bring them over.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
We had K rations.
And so to get into the second day, and
Well, end of the second day was about the same. The night was about the same. And
Okay, so-
actually, the first 3-4 days were about the same.
we're not really much movement on the Marines, and you still had the Marines.
Well, they're moving on the third day now. They're
Okay, but
pretty
the-
up to the airport
Okay.
that they were. Our group was supposed to. The 27th Division was supposed to take. They got to the airport about the third or fourth day, and the beach got a little more open for us because Surbachi now was being pretty well handled.
Okay.
And on the fourth day, the shelling kind of slowed down on Surbachi, and then on the fifth day, if I recall correctly, the Mount Surbachi was taken, and the shelling stopped from that area. I think it was the fifth day.
Okay.
And we were just taken off the beach when the flag went up. Yeah,
Okay, so you were just leaving the beach when
Yeah.
the flag went up. That was the fifth day.
yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Did you see it? Did you actually see it go up? Or?
Well, we kind of think we did because we were told it was going to go up. I can't recall seeing it, but sometimes I think I did.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, did you? What are your most vivid recollections of that 5 days? And
Well, my most vivid, you're scared to death. You pray a lot.
yeah.
And you do what you're told to do, and you want to carry out your work as best you could, assist anybody that you could, and we didn't have to do much of that. But we didn't have to shoot. I lost my gun on the landing because we landed in the water, and lost my gun, didn't need it anyhow.
So you were unarmed all this time?
What's that?
So you didn't have a weapon with you? And,
No, didn't have a weapon.
Okay.
Lost my gas mask too because, you're sitting in an angle like this, and all of us come out of this thing in the water, and I had a thing I had to protect, a generator and a lamp.
Oh, okay.
That was my thing. And if I lost that, I was useless.
Yeah.
As a fighting man, no, it was only defense if somebody was coming into your
Sure.
foxhole.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Well, I think. Well,
Yeah.
it's an interesting observation. Well, were there any casualties in the beach, your particular beach
Yeah,
party?
2 of our radio men got killed right away, and another one got injured. There was, I think, our lieutenant commander, our assistant beach party got killed. He was an officer, and our doctor got killed. So
Okay.
we had a doctor and a assistant beach master, but our beach master made it through, and he was an old man.
Huh?
He was really an old man, but he was a great guy.
You just knew how to duck at the right time, I guess.
I guess Commander Otley,
Yeah.
I really think he was one of the greatest men I've ever met. Yeah.
Well, after they pulled you off, did you go back to your LST that you'd come over?
No, they pulled us off on a LCVP boat, took us back to an LST, and on the LST they gave us our first meal, which was spaghetti, and I remember that to this day. I thought it was the best meal I've ever eaten. But anyhow, after we had on the LST, I think for a day or so, maybe the next day, we were transferred back to our ship. And then the ship now, the Hansford, had become sort of a hospital ship because we had quite a few doctors aboard, and the wounded were coming in, so we had room to put a lot of wounded people. You know, we carried 1,200 and some 1,400 troops, so we got a room for 400 or 500 wounded. Whether we had that many or not, I don't know. But as soon as we got back aboard ship, about the 6th or 7th day, we sailed for Saipan. And on our way to Saipan, several of these guys died, and we had burials at sea. So it was quite a experience as for a guy in Southern Illinois who couldn't even swim to see all this action and all this death and all this destruction and body parts, see body parts in the, you know, laying out there on the beach, and you know, it's kind of a new experience, and it's a experience you don't quite forget, but you don't want to really say much about it either. I mean, what more can you say?
Yeah, well, most people don't like to talk about it. Fortunately, you do, because I think it's important that I think it needs to be passed on.
Yeah, but nobody can visualize that sight, really, by saying it. You can't visualize what I just told you. Yeah. But, I mean, when I say there were arms and legs laying around and with some shoes on them yet, you know, it's different. Yeah.
Okay, well,
after we got back to Saipan?
After you got to Saipan,
we that was, let's see, we got back to Saipan about 6 days later. Be February 25th. We set sail for I don't know where, but we picked up the group that was going to invade Okinawa. We spent very little time with them, but with the Army. I think it was with the Army. Yes, it was with the Army. That we were going to land at Okinawa on Easter morning, and our ship again carried troops to Okinawa. And on the way to, that was Easter morning, April the 1st, April Fool's Day. We were there, but we were held in reserve this time. We were not forward element, or we're not a forward beach party, but we did go in about, I don't know, 4th day, 5th day. But the beach was secured by then. It was just like going down here to the ranch or something, you know. So it was, the Army was going north and then south, and this, where we landed, was pretty well, it was all secured.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was no battle there for us as such. But on the way there was land mines, sea mines, mines that got cut loose that we had to watch out for, so that our ships didn't hit them while we're at sea. We always had to, Signalman had an important part aboard ship to observe those kind of things, because you're up there on the bridge, and you got the glasses, and you got the telescopes, and you're looking for this mine that's bobbling around out there.
Okay, so you have sort of shipboard duties as well as...
As soon as I got aboard ship, I had ship duties.
I see,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Became part of the crew there then.
Yeah, I was part of the crew at that point, yeah.
Okay.
But as soon as we dropped anchor, I was no longer part of the crew.
That's sort of an odd situation to be switch groups or switch your...
Well, it's sort of like the boat group, you know. They're part of the crew, but when you go to battle, they're not part of the crew.
Oh, the coxswains and
they're
for the
all
landing
out there in their
craft.
boats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
So they're doing that. So there's 3 groups. There's ship's crew, which is the original group of 500 and some. And then the boat group fills in a couple hundred, and then we fill in with our 50. So we all had duties aboard ship.
Okay. And did you get replacements for your casualties after you left?
We had about 8 or 10 replacements due to casualties and deaths. So I think 5, 6 guys lost their lives. Yeah.
Okay.
Then after Okinawa.
What happened on Okinawa though? How?
Well, Okinawa, we just went in and we were there 2 or 3 days and did nothing, I would say, as far as a beach party.
Okay.
And now some of the group, part of the group might have, whether the medics had a job or 2, I don't know. But anyhow, the problem with Okinawa was the kamikazes. We had to make smoke all the time to keep the kamikazes from seeing our ship. So when we were in anchor at Okinawa, we had to send a boat around our ship to make smoke, so they couldn't zero in on our ship. And one of them just sailed over our fantail, crashed in the water maybe 2 football lengths away from us or something like that. But if he'd been a little bit farther one way or the other, they couldn't see it. Every ship out there was making smoke. In fact, they made so much smoke, our coxswain got lost. Going around the ship. So he never forgot that at any of our reunions. Everybody remembered him. Oh, he got lost.
Okay, so you got after your rather uneventful beach duties on Okinawa, you loaded back on board,
and from there we went south. And when we went south, the war in Europe was coming to a close. Let's see, April, May, June. I don't know if you know the end of the World War. It was June 5th or something like that.
In VE Day.
Yeah.
May. Yeah, I thought it was May, but I'm not.
May. You're probably right.
Yeah.
Because they started bringing these guys back from Europe, and we started amphibious training of the soldiers from Europe how to land on an island, because now I'm sure the thought was we're going to invade Japan. So we start doing amphibious training of troops in the Philippines. We took the Philippine Islands and did our training there of those fellows that probably would become the invasion troops over in Japan. But then after we did that, we took aboard a whole bunch, a group of troops that were well trained for amphibious work, and we left Subic Bay in the Philippines, and some say, let's say 10th of August or somewhere in there, went out to sea. Here we formed huge transport, APA and AKAs, you know what an AKA is? Divisions. And our group had about 30 of those ships with, each of us had 1,400 troops aboard. We knew we were going to Japan, at least we thought we were.
Yeah.
Because now it's August, the war in Europe's over, and sure enough, we're going to go to Japan. We've trained these guys and all that stuff. We're out to sea, and all of a sudden we get the order to turn back. And we go back to Saipan, and we didn't know what this is all about. Somewhere along the line, I'm not going to say when, maybe the same day he got it or not, but they dropped the A-bomb. And that made all the difference in the world. They dropped the atomic bomb, and none of us, I never knew what an atomic bomb was, or hardly any of us did.
Yeah.
And then we went back and traded troops for a different group of troops. And then the USS Hansford took on Rear Admiral Hall. He was in charge of this group that is going to be taken into Yokohama Bay.
Okay.
The Japanese had pretty much ceased fire on August, let's say somewhere around the 20th or 30th, and agreed that they would sign a peace treaty. But we didn't know for sure. So we sailed on into Yokohama Harbor, which is a big part of Tokyo Bay, and with our troops, all in battle gear, all the airplanes in the Pacific Ocean was flying above, all the cruisers were out there, all the battle wagons, and they were all the way out there, maybe 5-10 miles out. And we sailed right in with our group, right up to the dock. We didn't know what was going to happen. We were all in battle gear, ready to go into battle. But then we found out that when we got to the wharf, or dock, the Army had flown in a brass band the 2 nights before, I guess it was. And they were playing California, Here We Come. So we knew.
So you knew it was safe that way.
Right.
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah, it is. It's a good story, but it's true. And the other thing is, then as soon as we docked and became the occupational forces, our ship took on the captured Americans on, let's say, Tarawa or wherever all these Americans were captured and taken to the homeland. They turned them over to us, and we became the factor then that brought them back to health. They were so malnutritioned, you could touch them and it would stay there. you know.
Mm.
And they wanted steak, but of course they got soup. And as soon as they got strength enough to stand a trip, they flew them out.
Okay, so they came aboard the ship just to get sort of regenerated
Right.
a little bit, so they would have strength enough for the trip back
Right.
to the U.S.
Right,
And
right.
they flew them out.
So also during the Manchurian War, as you might know, Japan had captured a lot of Chinese, thousands of Chinese, thousands of them. They brought them to their homeland, put them in the steel mills and in the mines, and worked the heck out of them. And then when the war was over with, Japan said, well, they're yours. Turn them loose.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it was all that simple,
Yeah.
but there's certainly things that went on under we never were privy to. But anyhow, then we became a ship, one of the ships, there was quite a number of us, that took Chinese prisoners of war back to China. Up the Yangtze River, over to Shanghai. And
You went up the Yangtze to
Yeah.
Shanghai?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was there twice, I think it was, and one other place, I can't remember, on the coast we went one time. It was a 3-day trip, if I remember correctly, or a little 3.5, 4 days. Then when we came back to Japan, the people in the Army and Marine Corps, and even in the Navy, that had enough points to get out, we became one of the ships that brought them back to the United States. And there was thousands of us over there, thousands and thousands of
Sure.
Americans over there.
Yeah.
So I think we made 2, maybe 3 runs, bringing back those guys. And because of that need for the ship to operate, many of us were frozen. We could not get discharged. So I served about 4 months extra because of this kind of duty. And I wasn't.
Well, yeah. Well, so I guess somebody had to
Run the ship.
had to be
You
done.
can't say I ran the ship, but we helped run it. So, anyhow, I got out in April of 1946, and then what did I do? I guess you want to know that.
Yeah.
I didn't do too much for a while. I went back to work on my family had left the farm, and I worked for a few farmers around, and I tried to enroll in college. But couldn't get in anywhere because all the early people that got discharged had already been able in January to start college. And these universities, like University of Illinois, who's only 3,000 or 4,000 people, now you want 15,000 people to
Sure.
enroll there. There wasn't any room for anybody. So I found a little college where I eventually enrolled in and transferred and became a school teacher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I taught biology, and later I became a dean of students in a large high school of 3,000, and went through some real experiences with drugs with kids, and also with racial problems, and so anyhow, it was another real experience in my life. I mean, I think it helped me to go through the war to prepare for some of that, and then I retired in 1980 and moved to Michigan. And from Michigan, I stayed up there. That's where I live now. We have 12,000 cherry trees, and we have a good life. And it's beautiful up there, and I have a good family. And I think God was good.
12,000 cherry trees. That sounds like that might keep you busy.
Well, it doesn't keep me busy anymore. I'm too old.
So,
But we got a lot of cherries.
and what sort of? Do you have family? You have children?
I have, of course, I have my wife who's now living and here with me. We've been married 57 years. I have an adopted son, not an adopted son, I have a stepson, and a son of my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I claim him.
Yeah.
Both of them
Yeah.
are good kids.
Well, it sounds like you came out of the war with a good attitude that you were just going to.
Yeah,
get
I
on with
did.
life.
I have a good attitude about it. I mean, the GI Bill was a wonderful thing for me because
Yeah.
we were dirt poor and still were at that point.
Yeah.
And no help would have ever taken me to college. So that was wonderful. I've always been an active church member. I've taught an awful lot of classes, high school, adult, so forth. So I have a good life. Yeah,
So it was all worth fighting for then, you think?
absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's
I'm also the chaplain of our group. I don't know if you know that or not.
No, I didn't know that.
Each year I have to give a memorial service, and I always give a talk on something, the flag or freedom or justice or something.
Oh, okay.
So I got another one coming up next Saturday night. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've got 27 of them now.
Well, that's a beautifully told story, Stan.
Well, I think it's all about true as can be from memory.
Well, sure, and it's been over half a century now, so we can understand, you know, a few lapses here and there. Well, unless you have something further to add, I think we'll.
I have nothing unless you do, Charlie. You've been a good interviewer, and I appreciate your leading questions.
Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate your taking the ball and running with it too. You've got a good story there, and it all kind of hangs together too.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I'll shut her down here then, and.